Hello, welcome back to another illustration vlog. This is a recording from earlier in the year in February. Today's video is the first of a 5-part series where we will be going through the process and time lapse of me creating my next personal illustration. The theme of this illustration is Alice in Wonderland. This is such a timeless and classic story, and I would say the original book illustrations by John Tenniel in the 1865 book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was one of the inspirations for me back when I started ink drawing and was developing my style and medium focus. I love old vintage illustrations and I am drawn to detail. This has very much become a part of the way I make art today. Because of this, reflecting on the theme of Alice in Wonderland is so special to me, and I was excited to create my own version for this illustration. Similar to my last illustration vlog series, I've collected books in my home that relate to the theme and printed out a mood board of images I'm inspired by. This video will look at my research process, creating my draft, working on the Lightbox sketch, and starting my first ink outline of the artwork. My mood board for this theme is sectioned out into groups. One group looks at the original ink drawings from the 1865 book. Another is a study of different types of mushrooms. Some are photos, some are beautifully laid out artworks. Another page is a reflection on flowers and floral arrangements, gathering inspiration for the talking flowers with faces. Another group looks at how artists have tackled the theme of Alice in Wonderland. For this illustration, I made a board on Pinterest, which is where I found most of my imagery. On Pinterest, I seem to have never-ending boards with a variety of topics. It's always one of my first choices to explore imagery when starting a new artwork. Once I've set up my studio desk, I get set into working on the draft in Procreate. I love the sketching brushes in Procreate as the textures do a great job replicating pencil lines. The Apple Pen is also nice to work with, and the pressure and sensitivity is the best I've found for feeling like you're drawing with a pencil and paper. I've begun my draft by sketching Alice. I had an idea in my head already of what the artwork would be, and it centralizes around Alice, so drawing her first made sense. I'm working out her stance and pose. Once I have a rough idea, I move into roughing out the rest of the artwork. When I have thought of how I would make an Alice in Wonderland illustration, I imagined Alice wandering through Wonderland in awe of her surroundings. She is surrounded by all the things we think of when we are reflecting on this story. The Cheshire Cat is watching Alice from a tall tree. Large and small flowers with faces are laughing and whispering. Strange mushrooms create borders around the space. The White Rabbit is looking at his clock. The deck of cards are blowing away in a breeze. And a caterpillar is lazing about in a puff of smoke. Creating the look for the Cheshire Cat was quite fun. He is such a cheeky looking character, an oversized cat that would look like a big soft toy if not for his slightly creepy face. He has a long mouth with a smile that shows his teeth and big eyes. I've drawn the Cheshire Cat crouching down in a tree in the top right corner of the page. His long, stripy tail curves down the tree, helping the movement of our eyes flow through the border of the artwork. The flowers were one of my favourite objects to draft up. I envisioned an array of different flowers with different sizes and shapes. As Wonderland is often mixed with chaos, it made sense to have an assortment of flowers, creating a detailed mess. I wanted the artwork to look like it had a lot going on. The faces were quite fun to draw, some appearing like they are sleeping and some smiling with their eyes closed like they are giggling. They have thick lashes and large lips, with a priority for presentation. I think I enjoyed creating the ideas of the mushrooms the most. Researching strange and curious mushrooms was fascinating. It was interesting to see all the possibilities for types of mushrooms I could illustrate, and think about how I could push the likeness of them and warp them to suit the layout of the artwork. The mushroom I drew in the bottom right corner looked like it was an upside down mushroom, which makes a nice reference to the themes of the story. For example, there was an upside down room in the White Rabbit's house, with the furniture on the ceiling, and the concept of Wonderland being an upside down place where things are illogical and not proper. Here is my Procreate app recording of the drawing time-lapse. You'll be able to see here better my process of sketching my draft up. When my draft is complete, I export the Procreate file to Photoshop and print out my draft in different sizes to see which I like best for the final artwork. For this piece, I chose to draw the artwork at A3 size on an A2 paper. Once drafts are printed, I move on to the Lightbox work, where I transfer a pencil sketch of the draft onto the final paper. I like to do the Lightbox work at night time as the Lightbox appears more brighter in a dark room. This means I can see through the final paper better, trace the draft with ease. I also have reference of my draft on my iPad open. While tracing, I can zoom in on my draft on the iPad to make sure I'm getting the details correct. And on my laptop, I have the relevant images from my mood board of what I'm tracing at the time. Next comes the lengthy process of drawing the ink outlines over the pencil sketch. I will apply light pressure onto the paper and draw slowly, as this is the last chance to get my line work the way I want it to appear on the final artwork. Once all the line work is done, I will erase the pencil lines over the whole page and dust away any excess rubber. I will then be left with the clean, thin ink line work. These tiny flowers were the most time consuming to outline, as there were so many of them. They are the smallest flowers in the artwork. Here I'm drawing my more regular looking mushrooms, with the exception of them being large compared to the characters. I've also included Alice's cat, Dinah. She appears to have found her way into Wonderland, staying close to Alice. And of course, I have chosen to draw the caterpillar sitting on the highest mushroom. In other visuals of the caterpillar, he is mostly found lounging on a mushroom when he encounters Alice. Filling in the empty space around the mushrooms, I have added some props that make an appearance throughout the Alice story. I've drawn the drink me potion, the eat me cake, along with a key. These objects appear to be falling, making a reference to Alice falling down the rabbit hole. Next, I'm drawing Alice. Instead of putting a ribbon in her hair, I've drawn a flower crown, as she was making one before she came to Wonderland. I've given her a frilled apron with some pockets to complete the look. And she is wearing a loose-fitting, buttoned-up dress that has flared-out layers at the bottom of the skirt, with mid-length puffy sleeves. Originally, I drew her outfit in the typical way you'd imagine her dress, based off other versions of Alice. But I found this to be too boring and typical. I ended up basing her dress on the blue dress I was wearing earlier in the video. Although my dress is modern, its silhouette makes me think of an old vintage style, which I love. Now that the left side of the artwork is done, I'm moving on to outlines of the right side. In the bottom right corner, I am outlining the large upside down looking mushrooms. These mushrooms are based on a type of mushroom called the orange fan fungi. The orange fan mushroom is often found on dead wood growing in groups horizontally. They are fan-like shaped and face upwards towards the sky. A fun fact is that these mushrooms are actually found in Australia. They grow in the eastern mainland states and in Tasmania and Western Australia. They appear in rainforests or wet eucalyptus forests. As I am from Australia, I think this is a nice little momentum to the artist. Surrounding the mushrooms are 3 different types of flowers. Continuing up the page are even more flowers. This area is predominantly focused on the flowers with their cheeky faces. Within the flowers we have a flamingo hiding and some smaller mushrooms peeking through. And then comes the set of cards flowing through the artwork. Its movement and direction helps move our eye through the artwork. And lastly, the Cheshire cat lining the tree, giving Alice a big smile. We are finishing part 1 on the outlines finished for the whole drawing. Moving on from here, I will be releasing 4 separate videos going into detail the drawing process of particular areas of the drawing. My next video, part 2, will be looking at my mushroom drawing process from start to finish.